Now, today in Surrey, there was a trilateral summit to discuss the ongoing extortion crisis in BC. In a press conference afterward, there were federal and provincial governments announcing new funding to help police investigate extortion and to support victims here in BC. So that was $4 million for police investigations. Another $1 million is going to be spent helping police support victims of the crime. Here is Federal Minister of Public Safety, Gary Anandasangari.
I had the opportunity this morning to meet with several individuals who were directly impacted by extortion. And I want to tell them, as well as all those who have been going through a very difficult set of issues relating to extortion, that we're hearing you, we're with you, and we will make sure that we put all of our collective resources into action to ensure not only your safety and security, but safety and security of all those in British Columbia and across Canada. Our discussions this morning brought together leaders from all orders of government. Together, we examined the current landscape of extortion in BC, enforcement challenges, and the critical role federal, provincial, and local agencies, including those part of the BC Extortion Task Force.
So that was the Federal Minister of Public Safety, Gary Anandasangari. And joining us today to talk about this is Galib Bhayani. He's a criminologist with Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Galib, hi, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Gloria. Thanks for having me on here today.
Well, thank you. What did you make of today's announcement?
Well, I can say it's heartening finally to see a tripartite discussions taking place and discussions that are involving the local community. It's about time. I know conversations will be taking place at provincial levels, provincial, municipal. At the town hall a couple of weeks ago that CBC hosted, you had a group of people there, but finally there's what looks like a coordinated approach with all the key ministers and police chiefs at the table.
Right. Well, the minister did note that this is the first formal trilateral response here. I mean, what do you think about how long it has taken to get this together?
Well, I think some may dispute what I'm about to say, but I think it's taken too long for these folks to get together. I think having the minister fly out here with his team demonstrates the level now of commitment. And you know, echoing David Eby, Minister Premier Eby's comments around shared anxieties, I think it's being recognized now at the federal level, and the pressure that's being put on the federal government by municipalities like Surrey, Abbotsford. It's caused them, it brought them to these discussions now.
Okay, and we had the news today. Indian police officials say they've arrested a man related to a shooting at Caps Cafe in Surrey. What do you make of that news today?
Well, I think you may know that just prior to this release of this individual, which is very surprising to me, that would be a big deal in India, for example. But just prior to the arrest, you may know that the commissioner of the RCMP, the senior leaders of CSIS and Public Safety Canada were in India, meeting with their counterparts over there, and then following that, we hear about this arrest. So I find that very interesting, and I find that the discussions now seem to be moving in a positive direction with India, which we haven't had great relationships with lately.
Right. Well, and this individual I've heard had been arrested in Ontario previously. Did you know about that?
I did, and then next thing you know, he's released, and now he's in India. Nobody was able to answer that question. That brings me to the discussion around our federal legislation, around sharing of information, around privacy and the security of privacy. How come we don't know that someone's been released from jail after they've been involved in something this significant, and they've left the country, and now they've been arrested on the other side of the world for a crime that's happened in Surrey? So that's concerning for me. And that, again, I think is the reason why you see the federal side of the House at the table now so interested in these discussions.
Well, again, this news today about the arrest in India, but we have seen a handful of arrests recently here related to extortions too. And the CBSA said today that they have removed 5 individuals from Canada and that 96 foreign nationals are inadmissible to Canada. What does that tell you?
So, well, 5 from 3. When we had the town hall, there were 3 at the time. Now we have 2 more in 2 weeks. I can tell you this: Canada is a country built on law and fairness and due process. Anyone who's in Canada without right without legal status and is involved in criminality, my point of view is that the safety of our communities come first. And the law is clear. Public safety comes first. If you don't have a right to be here, you've committed a crime. I think it's time to make those decisions on how do we change our policies around that and make sure these folks can be sent back to where it is that they have originated from. And at the same time, I now ask the question that was asked at the town hall about privacy. Why can't these names be shared? These individuals are being, for lack of a better term, deported. They have no status in Canada. Why can we not share those names with the community? And that's where our federal government needs to step up a little bit.
Well, we also heard at the town hall John Brewer with the RCMP saying that initially police were on their back foot with this investigation. What did you make of that?
Yeah, and I was at that town hall and I heard those comments, and I have a lot of respect for the RCMP and for the municipal police agencies. I worked 31 years in policing in British Columbia and elsewhere. I do know these are very complex investigations, and the nature of policing in British Columbia, we are getting better at integration, regionalization, talking to one another, coordinating, but you still have 15 different police agencies. When an extortion happens in Richmond and another one in Abbotsford and another one in Victoria, for example, it's hard to connect the dots until you get a coordinated task force to sit down. One thing I would ask is that we have a task force and we have multiple police agencies still working at various levels and having their own task forces. Where is that coordination, and what are the numbers of files going into the task force? I'd like to hear that. I asked for transparency at that town hall, weekly, monthly reporting to the community to build that trust. Tell us how many investigations are underway and how close are we to charges on many of these?
Well, again, the announcement today, governments, that was a combination between BC and federal government, announced $1 million to support the victims. What do you think? What could that support look like? What do you think the victims of extortion need in terms of support?
And that's a great question. I think Jenny Sim is a great advocate for victims' rights. She was present today. I heard some questions from her at the news conference and at the town hall. I think that money will go towards supporting victims. Following some of these types of crimes, there is lifelong trauma. There's needs for support. There's also the needs for what we call victim management, so to speak. So when you attend court, you're not re-traumatized, you're not re-victimized. So it is about looking after these people that have gone through the trauma. But I think the other piece around here also speaks to that they gave this money towards the victim side of the house, but I know there was more money given towards, as you mentioned earlier, towards investigations. I'm a little confused because they mentioned drug investigations, not necessarily extortion. So for me, that was a little confusing and a little bit interesting at the same time. I'm not sure. I know when you talk about criminality, criminals will exploit anything, and they're opportunistic. They could be extorting one day and selling or exporting or importing drugs the next. But that money seemed to be directed towards a integrated drug unit specifically, as opposed to the extortion task force.
You know, there were a lot of people at that town hall that wanted to draw the connection between the extortions and foreign interference from India, targeting the Sikh community in particular. And that was including criminologist Wade Deisman. So now the federal government under Mark Carney is seeking to make closer ties to India. So we heard from Gurpreet Kaur, a lawyer and representative from the World Sikh Organization, about that.
I mean, how do you go from about a year ago where Canadians were told by the RCMP and senior government officials that there are certain Indian diplomats that were removed from Canada because they were suspected of very serious wrongdoings, including involvements in killings tied to like a broader pattern of organized criminal activity, to this, right? What has changed since then? To us, nothing has changed. In fact, we think it's gotten worse. Only in Surrey, I think, or in the Lower Mainland, there's over 100 extortions that have been reported as of last week. So how is all of that being disregarded and these economic ties being awarded? It doesn't make sense to us.
What went through your mind when you heard that?
Yeah, I think those are very fair comments. And I recall someone at the town hall saying we've gone from public safety as a priority to trade as a priority. And I understand the economy is very important. Our relationship with the United States and what's been happening around tariffs has led us in different paths. And one of those pathways is India. But I caution the government that you have lost, you as in the justice system as well, has lost trust by a lot of these folks, and how slow the wheels are moving, and how the justice system has not demonstrated that they're able to bring these people to the table in a timely way, meaning these perpetrators to the courts. So when I hear the terms foreign interference, I also have to be very cautious. I think the visit by CSIS and the RCMP and Public Safety Canada a few weeks ago to India, there's a lot of discussions taking place on many different fronts. But I do also believe that it was trying to, bring that relationship closer to India. We can't do these investigations without help from our international partners or international some of these countries overseas. They are highly complex investigations that require some proactive information to be received. And our information sharing is not great with India. Maybe it's getting better after this visit 2 weeks ago by federal officials.
Really a pleasure to hear from you this afternoon, Galib. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria.
Galib Bhayani, a criminologist with Kwantlen Polytechnic University.